Coming to you from Music City,
Nashville, Tennessee,
the definitive arts and entertainment podcast.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode 5 of Turn It On. That's my show. My name is Michael J. Thanks for listening. Hope you guys are all doing well. Things here have been great. I've been trying to find extra time to keep the show moving forward with everything else that's been going on, and it's been a lot. I have an incredibly busy life. I still do a little bit of work during the day to make ends meet, and I've just been touring like a crazy person on the weekends. So that means learning a lot of different artists' material, and then shuffling it out of my brain and cramming my head full of some more material for the next gig, and so on and so on. But I can't complain. It's part of living in Nashville, so I'm really excited to be busy. I remember when the phone was not ringing, and the phone actually is ringing now, so that's a good thing. And I've actually had to say no to some stuff, so that's a good position to be in. Some of you may have heard me mention that I played with a country artist named Chuck Wicks at the beginning of my stay here in Nashville. For those of you who don't know who Chuck Wicks is, he's an absolute powerhouse of a singer and songwriter, and one of the best entertainers I've ever worked with. It honestly doesn't get any better than that. Chuck had a big country hit back in 2007 with a song called Stealing Cinderella. He's also written songs for other artists, and I think his most recent thing was a song called I Don't Do Lonely Well, which was on the last Jason Aldean record. Great stuff. Chuck is also currently one of the morning radio hosts on a show called America's Morning Show, which is on Cumulus Radio and broadcasts to New York City. My friend Chris Nix, actually, who was on episode 1 of Turn It On, is Chuck's band leader and lead guitarist. Chris actually had some conflicts in his upcoming schedule and asked me to fill in on a couple gigs with Chuck this coming weekend. So I'm absolutely thrilled to say that I will be playing the Grand Ole Opry for the third time this coming weekend, September 25th. Very, very excited about it. I couldn't imagine that I was even going to be able to do that once, let alone 3 times now. So I'm really, really thrilled about the whole thing. And immediately following the Opry gig, we are hopping on a tour bus and going down to Navarre Beach, Florida, which is not far from my old stomping grounds of Gainesville, Florida, to play a music festival called Country on the Sound with Big and Rich. So it promises to be a really big show. I'm also very excited about that. And all the guys that are going to be on the gig with Chuck are some longtime friends of mine, so it's going to be a great time. One of my fondest memories in recent years, actually one of my fondest memories ever, was getting to play the Grand Ole Opry for the second time. Each time I've done it now, I've done it with Chuck Wicks. It was 2 Opry appearances and then 1 appearance at Opry at the Ryman, which is the original Grand Ole Opry house. My parents got enough advance notice about the gig to get themselves a flight and come to Nashville, and thanks very much to Chuck Wicks, we're able to go backstage at the Opry. And if you don't know anything about the Grand Ole Opry and you're not familiar with what goes on there, it's kind of a variety show. You get on and you do 2 songs and you're on and you're off, basically, and it goes by in a blink. So the first time we did it was almost too fast to digest everything that had just occurred. So the second time there was a little more time to breathe, a little more time to kind of savor the experience. So having my parents there was just an added bonus. My father is a jazz saxophonist, a brilliant jazz saxophonist, actually. So he was like a kid in a candy store, kind of walking around backstage, talking to all the Opry house band guys and talking music. And I think there was an incredible sense of relief for my parents for several reasons. Number one, I used to rehearse in their basement with my old band Exploding Boy for years and years and years. That was our rehearsal spot, was my parents' house. So they put up with a lot of loud late-night rehearsals and banging around and noise and all kinds of stuff. And when I had moved to Gainesville, the first, maybe 5 or 6 years down there, I was down there for 13 years. The first 5 or 6 years were good. And the second half of my stay, I feel like I was maybe just kind of languishing and not really sort of pursuing my career aspirations. I was doing 5 to 6 gigs a week and sometimes 2 gigs a day. I would go and do a 5:30 to 8:30 show and then pack up my gear and drive across town and do a 10:30 to 1:30 show. And, it was just not a healthy situation for me down there. So once I moved to Nashville and, they saw things like this happening, they were just kind of relieved, I think. They were just really relieved backstage of the Opry to see that maybe things were sort of panning out for their son. I don't know. Be that as it may, I will never forget the looks on their faces. I'll never forget that weekend. They were just on cloud nine, and it meant the world to me. So thanks to Chuck Wicks for that experience. And again, I'm super thrilled that I get to do it all again this coming Friday. And I'll give you guys a report after the weekend on the on that show and on the opening slot for Big and Rich, and let you know how that went. I'm sure there will be stories aplenty. Speaking of Gainesville, Florida, we are going to do sort of a throwback or flashback episode today on Turn It On. Most people don't know that I started a podcast back in 2007, and it was a short-lived thing. It went about 6 episodes and then kind of fizzled out. I just ran out of content. I ran out of things to talk about, music to play. It was more kind of a radio show format back then, and the idea of having an interview program really only sort of occurred to me. And the episode I'm going to play for you today is one of 2 interviews that I did back then for my podcast. And I was working with a guy named Michael J Weiss. He was a local Gainesville artist and had just kind of started playing around town. And he approached me about doing some production work and some engineering work and, stuff on his first record. And it was my first project from the ground up that I'd ever done. So I was still learning, and Michael had never been in the studio before, so he was still learning, obviously, too. But I'm really proud of the record. Part of our approach to the whole thing was to try and keep the record sparse. You're going to hear some music clips on this. Michael wanted something to where, if people bought the CD and they saw him live, it wasn't that much of a disconnect between the two. So originally in this interview, we played several whole songs in the course of the interview. And in the interest of time, I edited, those things down except for the last song on the interview. I wanted to be able to sneak in one of Michael's newest songs at the end of the program, so you'll get to hear that a little bit later. And I listened to this the other day, and I think it's entertaining. Hopefully it'll keep you guys interested enough. Michael J Weiss is still down in the Tampa, Sarasota area playing gigs down there, so if you're down that way, you should definitely catch him out. He's a great, great time, and is one of my very good friends. So let's hop in the time machine and go back to 2007, 2008, and listen to my talk with my good friend, the very talented Michael J Weiss.
Listening to the Michael J Podcast.
Hello, everyone. Welcome again to the Michael J Podcast. As always, I'm Michael J, and we're doing something a little special today. Most of you may not know that aside from being a musician and doing my own thing, writing music, recording music, singing music, playing music, whatever, that I also produce other people, and just finished the first ever project that I've done from the ground up, producing, mixing, engineering, recording, playing on, and we have a special guest in the studio with us today, the other Michael J Weiss. Say hello to the people, if you'd like.
Hello, people. How are you? He did, in fact, produce me.
I did. I'm not sure where we're going to go with this today. We're keeping it real loose, but we had a couple beers kicking here. Anyway, just finished our first listen through to the new album that's going to be coming out real soon, and you'll be able to find that links to that on my website, and also MichaelJWeiss.com?
Yes, sir.
MichaelJWeiss.com. So look for me and then type WEISS at the end of it, and you'll find Mike. You can also find him on my MySpace page, myspace.com/MichaelJ. He's in my top friends. I think we've gotten to that stage in our relationship now where we're...
I'm in your top 5.
You're... Yeah, so anyway, I guess maybe we'll start by talking about some of the tracks here. I think we'll play you some of the songs that we did. We're keeping this episode really loose because we're just hanging out here, and
I refuse to rehearse.
That's right.
For anything.
So I guess maybe we'll go back to how we first met. Maybe, I don't know if that's a good place to start.
I was walking on the beach. Someone threw a football.
Kicked sand in my face.
Yeah, and he turned over. He wasn't wearing a bra. None of that's true.
No. And I may have to put a disclaimer at the beginning of this one, because the other podcasts have sort of been family and maybe work friendly, and this may be the first one that sort of isn't. So, if you're listening at work, I haven't decided whether we're going to edit the the cursing or beep it out.
You're going to have to talk to my people about what's acceptable as far as what part of me you can censor.
Whichever's funnier, I think.
If it makes you feel any better, I'm sitting in the studio with a black bar across my waist.
It's nice. Yeah, I have one as well. Mine's a much larger bar than yours, though.
Interesting.
Anyway,
I feel
so let's talk a little bit about the I guess the record and the way we approach this whole thing. When I first met Mike, I took a listen to his stuff on MySpace, and I must say I get a lot of submissions from a lot of people and a lot of requests from a lot of people, and I was instantly impressed with the songwriting. I tell you, I get some stuff where you listen to it for 30 seconds and you go, oh, that's not going to work. And, you know, my hat's always off to people who give it a shot, who are out there doing it. But I was instantly impressed with your songwriting. I thought it was really good, and I thought this is somebody I'd like to work with because you'd asked me if I wanted to work with you. So I said yes, and we did 3 songs initially, and then after that, we decided we were going to do a full album project. So having said that, I guess the goals, if you want to talk a little bit about this too, I don't want to make this my whole thing. But
we can keep going for now. We have the same goals.
Okay, great. Fantastic. So at the outset, we decided we're going to keep it real organic. Mike's music, most of you probably aren't familiar with it at this point, but you will be after this podcast, and hopefully you will go buy it. It's going to be out probably the first week of August or so.
That's the plan.
We wanted to keep it real organic because Mike's shows are, well, for lack of a better word, just a good time. Now, what do you say on your MySpace page?
It's drinking music.
It's drinking music, yeah. We wanted to not use any electronic instruments on this. We kept it real. If it wasn't hit, slapped, or tickled, we didn't put it on the record.
My ass is sore.
Yeah, so we played a lot. There was a wide variety of stuff used. I'm actually proud of the fact that this is my first outing as a percussionist.
Yeah, you played about 17 different instruments on this.
Well, also just, hitting various things around the studio, and actually some days we just kind of went and looked for stuff.
Yeah.
But let's start with track 1. Let's start with Waffle House, because it's probably one of my favorite tunes on the record, and it's kind of a bluesy song. And so we wanted to keep it authentic. So Mike had an authentic dobro resonator guitar that he brought over, which we used. And you want to talk about your thoughts behind this song, or a little bit about the story?
You want to hear the story, huh?
Well,
even here in the podcast.
I think we need the story. Sure,
might as well. Well, if you come to my shows, you'll realize that I tend to tell a lot of stories in addition to playing songs, because my favorite musicians live always tell the stories behind their songs. It still leaves plenty of the imagination, but makes it a little bit more fun, some of the background. Although you'll never picture what I'm picturing because I was actually physically there. But the song Waffle House actually came from a friend of mine who came to see me play at one of my shows. And the morning after the show, I found him laying in a field using a USA Today as a paper, or excuse me, as a using a USA Today as a pillow. And about 6 o'clock in the morning, and I asked him if he was all right, and he responded, in a completely illogical way, which was to tell me that it was okay and he was fine because it was clearly today's paper, which to me made absolutely no sense. But if you know the individual involved, it would make more sense. And I followed that up with the only solid follow-up question, which would be, what I actually meant was, are you okay? What happened to you? I lost you 24 hours ago. And his only response was, I think I found heaven here in the place that you play. So what could you possibly mean? And he said, well, all the women have huge breasts. They're really easy. The liquor flows like water. He's like, but I woke up this morning with a bit of a headache, hangover, and I went to get a plate of eggs and they charged me $13.50. He's like, if this is really heaven, you'd think they'd have a Waffle House. I gave that some thought and considered the fact that I'd never really considered, heaven and hell in terms of whether they had a specific fast food chain, and realized he might have been onto something. So 12 seconds later, on the side of a Dunkin' Donuts coffee cup, that's 2 plugs. We can make a lot of money off
Dunkin'
this.
Donuts, yeah, please. We love Waffle House and Dunkin' Donuts.
Yeah, 2 minutes later, we had this entire song. So I don't believe in wasting more than 5 minutes on a song. If it takes longer to write it than it does to listen to it, it was too hard. And
that's pretty much the approach we took with recording, too, is like, if it takes longer than an hour to record it, it wasn't worth recording. Mm-hmm. So anyway, we're going to play the track Waffle House here for you. We had a friend of ours, Neil. I don't know Neil's last name, so I'm going to apologize.
Lofgren.
Oh, Neil Lofgren. Okay.
Neil Lofgren.
Neil Lofgren played the harmonica on this track, and this is Waffle House.
Big-breasted women and short-sighted living got me wondering just where I'll end up. When this night is over, my brain cells sober, I'll be drinking from a Waffle House cup. I ask you, my friend, is this heaven or hell? Found myself lost, but I really can't tell. Curtain came up and the lights in my eyes just can't see through this heaven's disguise.
that was Waffle House. We hope you enjoyed that. That's probably one of my favorite tunes on the record because for a bunch of white guys, we made it sound like we were a bunch
I'm
of...
1/18th black.
Are you 1/18th? Very nice.
Below the belt.
I'm 0%. That's but I think we made that sound as
During
authentic.
that song, the black bar by my waist just got larger.
Yes, very nice. I think we made that sound as authentic as we possibly could. Let's move on to Shake Me Down, another one of my favorite songs here. This song, interestingly enough, when Mike played it for me, actually a lot of the songs you played for me, you kind of had a disclaimer, like, we all do that as musicians.
It's a songwriter disclaimer.
Well, we kind of go, oh man, it's not really worked out yet. It's really kind of rough and blah blah blah, or it's not mixed yet, or whatever.
It's a songwriter version of the checks in the mail.
Exactly. I do the same thing. But anyway, Mike played me this song in his apartment one afternoon because we were discussing songs that we could possibly put on his album. And within the first 3 chords, I kind of felt rude because I kind of must have just not listened. I was like, no, I don't need to hear anymore.
You did kind of seem like
I
a
was
dick,
like,
yeah.
that's great. Yeah, I was probably... I'm like, that's just great. We're cutting that. As with most songs, Mike looked at me and kind of said, honestly, really? Very self-effacing, but there's a lot of good stuff here. So anyway, Shake Me Down, we went with, it was the first of your songs that we actually started tracking.
It was the first song overall we tracked.
I think we cut a cover song before that.
Nah, we did If I Had a Boat Second, I thought. Oh, no, we did. We broke me in because we were worried I was going to be nervous.
That's right.
Which
So
I was.
Yeah, we cut the Lyle Lovett song, If I Had a Boat.
We did.
Which came out wonderfully. And then to kind of loosen you up a little bit, Mike hadn't really spent much time in the studio. In fact, believe it or not, as you're listening to this podcast, realize that Mike has only been playing in front of people for about 5 months.
The only reason I'm willing to do this podcast is because this actually triples my time in the studio, in case anybody asks.
Exactly.
So we're going to make this a long one. Get a beer.
Yeah, right.
Bring your computer into the bathroom.
We are actually having a few beers right now, and we encourage you to do the same, unless you're at work or driving an automobile.
And then just don't make it, too obvious.
Use a paper bag if you have one.
Yeah.
So Shake Me Down.
Cliche.
The percussion on Shake Me Down, interesting thing. I had this idea. I heard somebody, I believe on MySpace, had put a microphone next to his lap and was slapping his knees or his lap to create a percussive sound. So I thought, why don't we try that on this? And since it was the first thing, Mike kind of looked at me like I was nuts, but he said, hey, you know what? If you're all about this, let's go for it. So stuck the mic in my lap and proceeded to
What a good time.
It was a great time, and proceeded to play my legs.
Since then, incidentally, they've been on 3 dates, and they spooned. I had to leave after that.
So we put a mic in my lap, and actually I slapped my legs for the better part of, I think, was it 4.5 minutes or however long the song is?
2 times, I think.
And we did it twice through. And by the end, the next day, I had black and blue marks all over my legs from playing the track. But I suffer for my art. I suffer for your art. And it came out really well. And so Shake Me Down is another one of my favorite songs on the record. I have a lot of favorites on this record. So this is Shake Me Down by Michael J Weiss.
Shake me down till I can't feel the ground, and shake me down. Cut this cord to love. Shake me down. Shake me down. Ground is loose beneath my feet as the air all seems too thin. Watch the sky turn dark from crystal blue. Watch the clouds on my mind roll in. Shake me down. Oh, shake me down. Shake me down. Oh, shake me down. Shake me down. Oh, shake me down. Shake me down.
And that was a tune called Shake Me Down. We hope you enjoyed that one. So the next tune up on the record is a song called Paradise for Me, which is actually the title track. And this song makes me smile every time it comes on because, again, in his inimitable style, has these ideas which he thinks are ridiculous. And I have not heard a ridiculous idea come out of your mouth yet.
But keep in mind, after he says this, that half of this podcast has been edited for your pleasure.
Right,
so
exactly.
apparently bad ideas have come out of my mouth.
Right.
In public and in private.
So Paradise for Me is a song about, there was a line about seagulls crying in there, and I think Mike brought up something about, could we put a sound effect in there, maybe a beach sound effect, and then he said, isn't that cheesy? And instantly, I think I was already on Amazon.com looking up sound effect CDs,
You already had your wallet in your hand.
Like I did, like a mad person. I was
$23 is reasonable for a soundtrack.
But the funniest thing is some of the wave sound effects we found sounded like tidal waves sweeping away the entire east coast of Florida.
Peacefulness in a tsunami.
And they did sound like tsunami waves. We eventually found the right sound, and at the beginning of the track, and we subtly put it in at the beginning of the track and at the end of the track, and it just makes me smile. It makes me feel like the beach every time I hear it. Probably won't play this whole song because it's a long one, but it again, that was another thing we kind of talked about, was the length of the song, and should we cut it down, should we edit it, and it just felt really good being the rambling, kind of beachy kind of song it was. So,
you calling me a rambler, bitch?
Yeah, I am. That's right. What do you got to say about it?
Nothing.
Yeah. Well, okay, so I guess we'll play a little bit of Paradise for Me here, maybe just the beginning part of it for people.
If you want to hear any of the story behind Paradise for Me.
Yeah.
Because this is one of my favorites, because it's the only reference I can make to one of my favorite musicians down in Key West. And I actually wrote this song sitting down at Schooner Wharf Bar in Key West, and it's when I lived down there. And it was the day that the paper came out after Katrina devastated New Orleans. And I was sitting at the table, and I walked in. It was before they even opened. Hence the first line. It's too early to buy a beer. They wouldn't let me. I had coffee and a paper sitting in the bar. You know, when you live in the Keys, there's nothing else to do but sit in a bar. And
this is true.
The waitress came up to me and said, "You've got to hear his new song." The musician Michael McLeod, who plays there 6 days a week. And I said, "All right, I got to hear it." And he played it for just me, and I was sitting in the bar, and it was the most amazing song I'd ever heard, and it was about Katrina, because he'd worked in New Orleans for a long time. And while I was listening to him, I was looking at the paper that had the giant image of New Orleans underwater, and I just thought about the fact that I could be sitting down there and having such an incredible day where it was beautiful and seagulls were yelling and it was bright blue skies, and I was going to have a beer, although not yet, and I was listening to this beautiful music that, if you actually listen to the words, were really pretty sad, because he'd listened to New Orleans go underwater and it was hitting him pretty hard. And incidentally enough, I didn't write the song until 3 months ago, where I sat down when he finally put it out on a disc, which took about 2.5, 3 years. Put it out on a disc, I ordered it, showed up, and I was laying in bed listening to the song, heard it for 2 seconds, turned it off, got up out of bed, walked out and wrote the whole song in about 5 minutes. So it was apparently waiting to be written for about 3 years.
Nice. So that's the story behind Paradise for Me. We're going to hear a little bit of that track right now. Paradise for Me, Michael J Weiss, from the record Paradise for Me.
Sitting with the paper, far too early to buy some beer. Listening to the seagulls cry, wondered if they'd shed a tear. Lonesome day in this small town brings thoughts of grander things. Places full of late night life with limos, stars and kings. As I read of rising waters and the desperateness it brings, distracted by a poem set to music on steel strings. Story on the wind, just like the pages in a book. First wave to hit the shore, or a sailor's baited hook. Unknown things are simply that we will have to wait and see. For tomorrow's just another day in paradise for me. Tomorrow's just another day in paradise for me.
That was Paradise for Me by Michael J Weiss from the record Paradise for Me, produced by me. That didn't sound egocentric at all, did it?
No, not at all. You are high-fiving yourself now,
which is weird. I was high-fiving
yeah.
myself, yes. In private.
That's called masturbation.
Very nice.
Thank you.
Oh, dude, honestly, you are one of the quickest people I've ever met. I feel around this guy. I just feel completely like I've got nothing. I mean, at all times, he says.
I'm doing this entire podcast with my penis out.
That's true.
It's weird, but it proves a point.
Yeah, I got nothing, but it's good. I've learned a lot from working with you.
It's my years of experience. Did I say years?
It is months.
I meant weeks.
The next track we're going to talk about is a tune called Dusty Shoes, which is your newest one, or one of the newest ones. Another song that you kind of thought, should we cut this? I don't know. It's kind of ridiculous. And I said, that's great. We need to cut that.
Well, too heavy, if anything.
Well, yeah, it's heavy, but I think one of the things I mentioned to you over and again is that I love songs that juxtapose either really sad lyrics with a happy sounding song or really happy sounding lyrics with a really sad sounding song. I just love that contrast in music, and I always have. So Dusty Shoes is, maybe you should tell the story first, and then we'll kind of go into the production part of it.
What makes you think there's a story to this one?
Oh, well, yeah, there's maybe no reason.
This song I actually wrote. I spent 10 days this year in Haiti doing rehabilitation work, actually building prosthetic limbs and braces for locals in a little village. And I actually wrote this the first night that we got there, where we drove through Port-au-Prince in a cab, probably about 6 or 7 o'clock at night. And I'd truthfully never seen anything like that. I'd been to third world countries as a what would be considered a rich tourist on a cruise ship, but I'd never actually been in the middle of a third world country in that manner, driving through the real neighborhoods that would be considered the dangerous, bad neighborhoods. And this is within weeks of the major food riots that happened over there and everything. So, nothing was very safe, especially for tourists. And I'd just never seen anything like it. Streets were dirty, and you almost immediately get that it's beautiful. I mean, it's touching the Dominican Republic. It's gorgeous, but at the same time, it's almost hopeless, because no one is really sitting there in puddles going, my life sucks. Instead, they're sitting there thinking, well, this is as good as it gets right now. I mean, what is considered good is really not all that great, and I guess everything's relative. But in this particular situation, it struck me as almost scary how bad a lot of it was. And so I felt like I had to write a song, so this is probably the closest to forced I've ever done to write a song. But when I say forced, it still, of course, didn't take longer than actually the time of the song. It took me about 10 minutes. I wrote it on a roof overlooking Port-au-Prince from a mission house, and then I wrote it on a tiny little travel guitar, and it didn't take long, and I didn't even know that I liked it. I'd never even sung it till we did it in the studio. So. Yeah,
well, it came out great. It's honestly another one of my very favorite songs on this, and we took a real interesting approach with the percussion on this song. Again, being the percussionist on the album, I was looking for different elements. This was the last thing we cut, wasn't it?
The very last day.
The very last day. And it was we had 2 intense long days of finishing up this record that were both, I think, 11-hour days. They were really
easily.
And so by the end of the song, we were looking for different percussion elements to play. So I think I had a couple instruments that were given to me by somebody who used to go to Romania quite a bit, and they were just a Romanian pan flute of sorts and another sort of wooden flute. And so I grabbed a couple Sharpie markers and just thought, wow, it might be interesting to sort of hit these pieces of wood and create a percussion track. So that's the first thing you hear in the song.
It's pretty interesting to hear someone actually play a wind instrument as a percussion instrument.
Well, yeah. I've maybe never been done before. I don't know.
Sounded good.
Might be a first. So hitting the wood instruments with some Sharpie markers was the first thing that you'll hear in the track. And then as we went on, well, I think we always had beer here when we were recording, right?
I don't drink.
Oh, no, I don't really either. I won't, yeah.
Kids don't drink.
Kid, don't do drugs.
Why'd the monkey follow the tree? He was dead, don't do drugs. The more you know.
The more you know. So anyway, yeah. So I was
joke courtesy of Aaron Barleycorn.
That's good.
He's paying for this entire thing.
Yeah, this is the most expensive podcast ever done. So I ended up kind of playing the Sharpie markers on some beer bottles, and I thought, well, we have to put that in there too. So I think actually the beer bottles didn't go next. We went next with I ran to the kitchen. Because we're recording in my apartment, believe it or not. I don't live in a mansion. I don't have a separate studio from where
He's being modest. It's at least 600 square feet.
At least 600 square feet. So I ran to the kitchen, I think, and grabbed some glasses from in there and filled up some things with water. They were all half full.
Very optimistic
There was
record.
never one half empty. And so I mic'd up the glasses and was hitting the glasses toward the end of the song. And then we did a track of beer bottles. And then you ran to the kitchen, and as I was doing something else. And
I got a beer.
What you gotta do? You ran to the kitchen to get a beer, but then he came back with, which was brilliant, with
What did you
come back with? You came back with
It was a bag full of crap. Was what I came back with.
Yeah.
I came back with all kinds of crap. What we ended up using was I came back with a metal cocktail shaker full of ice, which we actually ended up using.
Which you played on the track as well.
My sole percussion track on here. And then the other stuff I brought back that we did not end up using.
Very apropos to be a metal.
If I'm going to play anything, it better be a bar-related instrument, yeah.
This is true.
Because I wouldn't have recorded this thing if I hadn't had a few cocktails.
This is true.
And I can't keep a rhythm without a cocktail. And then I brought back some other stuff we didn't end up using, but was in the same vein. Things like I found cake sprinkles in a little container, which you'd be amazed how well that makes a percussion sound. And a plastic bag, I don't know what I was thinking, like make the crap float in the street sound, but we almost used it. Yeah.
Well, that was great. In fact, we have these little plastic egg shakers, which hang on, they're right here. They're like they're little plastic eggs with little beads. So I played this, this whole kind of thing on a lot of the songs doing the shaker thing. And
more cowbell.
We didn't have any cowbell, unfortunately, or tambourine. I wished we had a tambourine at some point.
I didn't.
No, okay. Anyway, moving right along, this is a song called Dusty Shoes, probably, again, one of my favorite tracks on the album. And here you go, Michael J Weiss with Dusty Shoes from the album Paradise for Me.
Tell me, do you wonder how the other half lives? As you watch the time pass by, I'll tell you, my friend, 'cause I've seen dirty streets and faces in pain. And I've seen children die and cry in the rain. Put on my dusty shoes and see through my eyes. Maybe then you'll see yourself what money can buy. Put on my dusty shoes and walk through these streets. And don't forget me, son, or the pain in your feet. Yeah, don't forget me, son, or the pain in your feet. Well, don't forget me, son, or the pain in your feet. Put on my dusty shoes. Put on my dusty shoes.
Well, you know what I want to talk about right now, actually. I want to talk about the outtakes, the really hysterical outtakes. And we still, I don't know, I probably will play these because I think they're really funny. I think people will get to know you a little bit better. I'm a
serious musician, damn it. I take my studio time. I keep my body in perfect shape. I did 400 push-ups, at least 7 sit-ups.
At least 7.
And limited my beer intake to a case during every one of our recording sessions, and I never let that standard lax.
So, I having been around studios my entire life, I realized that, and I had a lot of good friends early on, that all the outtakes we ever had were generally kept. And I'm going to tell a story from my past for right now. There was at one point, my illustrious drummer, Jason Meerwald, who I've mentioned quite a number of times on these podcasts. At some point, we're going to have to do a phone interview with Jay. But Jason had fallen asleep under the mixing board when Exploding Boy was recording back in the studio. And our engineer at the time was a guy named Jeff Carey, who also had a really great sense of humor. So Jason, before he had an operation to repair a deviated septum, would snore horrendously. And it sounded like he was cutting redwood trees down. So he fell asleep under the mixing board.
Which incidentally is illegal.
It is. So please do not cut any redwood trees down. No redwood trees were harmed during the recording of this podcast. So Jason fell asleep under the mixing board, and Anthony Arrigo and I were kind of looking in amazement as Jeff ran frantically around the studio. We couldn't figure out what was going on. He was doing a mix, but he was running around the studio, grabbing cables, grabbing a microphone stand, grabbing a microphone to put... He heard Jason snoring because he was closer to the mixing board than we were. We didn't hear it. So suddenly, before we knew it, the red light was on, and the microphone was in Jay's face, and suddenly this monstrous snoring sound appeared on the track. And when Jay woke up, he was obviously oblivious. But we played the track back, and we had the snoring going through a giant reverb chamber, and it was awesome. So anyway, I'm a fan of the outtake, I should say. And whenever Mike screwed up, I had to tell him to stop for a second so I could save it. And
I got to tell you, it rarely happened.
Yeah, well, I compared you, I think, to that Muppet, the guy that always slammed his head down on the piano and said, "I'll never get it."
It was close to that.
Because you get so frustrated with yourself when you couldn't do something.
I demand perfection.
Well, yeah, you were actually...
And I barely got it.
You were actually quite good, man. Most of your takes were one-offs, and again, that lent to the loose feel of the record, which is great. I think we'll play the outtakes here, just so people can get an idea.
Children should wait in the other room.
They should.
I have a bit of a tongue.
And again, we're not sure if we're going to...
A foul tongue.
We're not sure if we're going to beep this out or not. Maybe in the interest of keeping it family-friendly or keeping it work-friendly, we might just beep it. It might be funnier if we beep it.
And yet I might decide that you cannot touch it.
Okay, well then we'll decide this at the end. But either way, here are some of Mike's outtakes from some mess ups in rapid succession, I should say. So here we go. Here are the outtakes from Michael J Weiss.
I'll call that fuck. I just fucked it up again like a jackass on your mom. Oh, sunrise. God, I can't fucking start on time. That's out of tune as fuck. Fuck, do I even know my own goddamn song? Actually, you can turn it down just a little bit again. I know I'm telling you to go up, down, Goldilocks style, but it's just right. It's like a closet in here. Watch the city slowly pass. Fuck, it's in the wrong spot again. I'm just a disaster.
So I hope you enjoyed those. I always enjoy hearing that. That's I play it back for myself sometimes when I'm all alone at night and want to smile. And
that's creepy.
It is creepy. We've actually skipped over some of the tunes on the album because we want to save some surprise for you when you go and buy this album on iTunes, and go to michaeljweiss.com and buy them, or go to his shows if you're in the Florida area, or if you're rich,
stay for just one song if you can.
That's right. You're guaranteed not to be sober by the end of it.
It's like a magic power.
It is. And no, Mike's shows are they're very captivating. They're a lot of fun.
It'll tug on your heartstrings.
It will. Probably a little bit.
A little bit on your wallet.
A little bit on your wallet. I'll keep you posted on michaeljmusic.com and also on my MySpace page, myspace.com/MichaelJ. And your MySpace page is...
Actually, if you go to michaeljweiss.com, it forwards directly to that page currently. But if you're looking for the direct link, it's myspace.com/Michael J Weiss.
Okay, so...
And it'll have a list of all the other places you can find me online as well. There's a number of videos on YouTube.
Yes.
It's YouTube /MWEISS 1197. It's MWeiss 1197, and that's just because, as it turns out, you can't quite capture the ridiculousness of my shows in audio.
This is true, and yeah, if you really want a feel of what a Michael J Weiss show is like, yeah, please go to YouTube and search him out, and it's just a good time for everybody.
I encourage you to drink heavily at your computer while you watch it.
Yes, unless you're operating a motor vehicle in front of your computer.
And then just don't tell them that I told you to do it.
Which you shouldn't be doing either, but people seem to do that. They seem to text message and do all kinds of things.
If you're on your iPhone right now while you're doing it, look up. Check the traffic.
Yes, check it out. So I think we need to move on to Dear Wilma, which was the
reason I have to make a record.
Well,
you want to know the truth?
This song was the big project for the album, because when I first heard this song, and well, why don't you give us the story real quick? I mean, you don't have to go to the whole story because the story's at the beginning of the song, but just gloss over it real quick.
The short version is, lived on a houseboat in the Florida Keys for a couple years, and during Hurricane Wilma, my houseboat sunk. And I've never been able to write a heartbreak song, and I can't write a Life is Terrible song, but it turns out I can write a relatively funny song. And my whole idea with this started with, if I can rhyme with a bad word, everybody will sing it. It really was that simple.
So when I first heard Wilma, Dear Wilma, I knew immediately that this would be the challenge of getting this one down the right way, because if we were to have gone in the studio and done it real pristinely and clean, it would have played kind of cheesy, and I knew that we were going to have Mike in front of a live crowd in order to do this. And so the challenge then was, either I bring my equipment to a smoky bar where there is the danger of any kind of alcohol or beer, or...
Which what Michael J might not say here is, when he describes what he actually did to make this happen, this was one of the most brilliant setups that ever could have been done in a studio situation.
Well, yeah, well, thank you very much. But I told Mike, I sat him down, I said, look, we have to do one of two things. We have to either bring the equipment to a bar or bring the bar to us. And fortunately enough for us, Michael has quite a loyal, rabid bunch of fans. I use the word rabid, and I use that in a very endearing way.
Really proud of it.
I'm sure they will. No, they're a great bunch of people, and who I've hung out with on several occasions, although I don't recall most of it.
That's what I do, my friend.
So we decided, rather than we were going to try first, rather than bring the equipment to the bar, which was also an option, we decided we were going to bring the people to us. So we, on a Sunday afternoon, several weeks ago, prior to one of your gigs, I should say, we... Yes, yeah, at 1 o'clock on a Sunday afternoon. Some people say, it's 5 o'clock somewhere. Well, it was 1 o'clock for us. We got a few bottles of some stuff, some booze. Makes it sound like we were doing drugs or something, but...
Breakfast drinks. You can be specific. We're adults here. It was not heroin.
Okay, no, it was not heroin. No, we were not doing heroin. We don't recommend that. Please don't do drugs, kids.
Drugs are bad.
Drugs are bad, okay? So...
Nice.
Since the song was about Hurricane Wilma, Mike invested in a bottle of Bacardi.
Big spender. It was $7.99.
Bacardi Hurricane, pre-mixed hurricane drink.
Lazy.
And how many people were here? Maybe 20?
Or at least 20.
At least 20 people. In this very small apartment, at least 200 square feet.
We did get 100% positive RSVP.
So everybody showed up at about 1 o'clock, and we had some beer and some cocktails and some finger foods and some chips and dips, and there were no chains or whips, but there could have been. So we set up Mike in my living room, which is a very small space, and I thought, okay, well, we need to make this sound like
Incidentally,
a bar.
if you want to see what it looks like, there is one video online.
Oh, there's video of it online.
There's one video. I did this song, and I fucked up like a champ. If you want to check out where the magic happens, where Michael J lives,
yeah.
I posted his address, the hours he'll be home.
So anyway, we had about 20 people over here, and we set Mike up in the living room and proceeded to track everything. And I'm kind of leery of giving away the secret of this track because I don't want people who hear it to. I want them to picture you in a bar. But
the truth is, there were over 20 drunk people watching the track, so there's only a little bit of a secret there.
Sometimes most bars, there are only 20 drunk people watching.
The fact that 20 of the drunk people from the bar chose to come to your house and record it is actually more of a compliment.
Which was kind of nice, yeah.
I could ever ask for.
So what we ended up doing was we tracked it live, and it's a sing-along song. And once again, if you're at work, I don't know if we need to beat
It's from my
this
heart.
up.
Turn it up.
Turn it up.
Help yourself to the company freezer. I'm sure there's something alcoholic in there.
There's lots of swearing in this one, so you might want to turn the podcast off now if you're at work. But it's a great story. It's a great song. You should listen to it at some point. And so what we did was, aside from the real actual people that we had in the room, we mixed in sort of a sound effect bar crowd behind everything to kind of give it an ambient sound. And I think it worked pretty seamlessly. Now, see, since we're giving the secret away, people are going to go, oh, it sounds like a bar crowd behind.
You might not want to give this away.
Well, we might, we'll see what happens. But
all the clinking was real.
the clinking was real. People were actually drinking.
The clinking, the singing, the yelling, that's all real.
Well, then we should say that Michael was kind enough to get us all a limousine, or those of us that were
actually, it was one of the people that came.
Oh, one of the people that
actually
came
couldn't come. Set up the entire limousine thing and planned to pick everybody up. My biggest concern was if I brought my largest fan base over to the house to hear the recording, that they wouldn't be able to make it over to the actual show at 3 o'clock, because as we've discussed more than once, my shows tend to lead to heavy drinking and overindulgence, some might say. And so,
well, dude, it's the podcast, and you and I have had several beers, and I'm thinking about one more actually.
I'm actually wondering why we're sitting in here. Yeah,
well, yeah, okay. Well, maybe we'll go get a beer on this next little break.
I think that's a good call. So so he sent the limousine for us. So we got the entire group got picked up and brought over to the gig.
Yeah, by limo. It was nice. I mean, it was.
You just stick with me, dog. Big shot.
I don't know whether I've ever had that much to drink in the course of a Sunday afternoon before. And it was all safe. We were driven somewhere. I didn't have to go anywhere by my own volition. I kind of followed the herd.
It's all I've been doing for quite a while.
That's right, and you've done very well. So anyway, this is the track.
It's a big herd.
This is the track "Dear Wilma" from the record "Paradise for Me" by Michael J Weiss. Enjoy this. Open a cold one, and
sing along. Here we go.
We're recording yet?
We're recording. All right, we'll do one of my songs. It's a song I wrote when I lived down in the Florida Keys. I lived there for about 2 years. I lived on a boat during all those storms that came through. 8 of them to be exact. First one came through and I packed up every single thing I owned and I ran for the mainland. Second one came through, I packed up a little bit less. Third one came through, I packed up a little bit less, until the 8th storm came through, Hurricane Wilma, and I said, what could possibly go wrong? And I didn't pack much up, just this guitar. And I went on vacation to Manhattan for my birthday. I got a call about 2 days before my birthday, and they said they could not find my boat. And I was pretty damn sure I remember where I left it. After a little bit of searching, we found it. Good news is it was only under about 4 feet of water. Bad news is, once your shit's all wet, 4 feet may as well be 20,000 leagues, because you don't typically get it back. I went downstairs, I grabbed a pad of paper and a pencil, wasted 4 minutes of my life writing this entire song. Now, I don't listen to country music. I don't really like country music, and I've certainly never written a country song. I learned an important lesson that day, which is when your shit sinks on your boat and you don't get it back, It's a country song. So this is the one and only country song I have ever written. Dear Wilma, I can't take it anymore. You may think you're special, but I've seen your kind before. So as you leave, collect your things and make a beeline for the door. Dear Wilma, up yours. Tell me, is it ironic, humorous as hell, or another sad story that I'll tell? Just when I'm about to say what can possibly go wrong, life finds a way of proving me I'm wrong. Dear Wilma, I can't stand you anymore. You may think you're special, but I've seen your kind before. So as you leave, collect your junk and make a beeline for the door. Dear Wilma, up yours. It's been almost 10 minutes since I got the wonderful news. My house now lives at the bottom of a lagoon. As I sit here miles away, imagining the view, I can't help but have my boat just sank blues. Dear Wilma, you stupid little whore. You may think you're special, but I've seen your kind before. So as you leave, collect your shit and make a beeline for the door. Dear Wilma, up yours. All right, the big finish you've all been waiting for. As you leave the Florida Keys, on this highway looks more like a zoo. Dear Wilma, fuck you.
So as you can tell, that was kind of a good time for all of us. That was Dear Wilma by Michael J Weiss from the album Paradise for Me, coming out in the beginning of August.
Beginning of August, hopefully the first week of August. The other thing to keep in mind with that song is if you've purchased the CD, this will not be the final track on the CD. You'll actually have to fast forward to get to it. This is in the interest of child-proofing the disc, so it is a hidden track. I wanted it to be something that was easily accessible, but at the same time, if you're playing it in the car with your kids, you won't accidentally stumble into a massive fuck you.
That's the great way to put it. So yeah, it is a hidden track. It will be a searchable hidden track. You'll be able to find it with a track number.
So please look.
This wraps up the next edition of the Michael J Podcast. I think this might end up being a longer one than the other ones, but that's okay because we're promoting something, and I think we've talked enough about everything, and there's enough interesting content here. So anything you want to say in closing at all?
Just, I hope that you enjoy everything that you hear. I know that I worked really hard on it. Michael J did an incredible job producing it. So when you listen to it, make sure you listen to it from a production value standpoint as well as from the music. And if you enjoyed it, please try and get in touch with me and let me know that you did.
Yeah.
If you didn't, please don't call me.
Please do. Once again, michaeljweiss.com is the website. And you can also visit him at myspace.com/MichaelJWeiss. Look his record up on iTunes in the very near future, and you can also visit me at michaeljmusic.com or myspace.com/michaelj, and you can email me if you happen to forget all this information at michaelj@michaeljmusic.com, and I will happily forward you on to where you can find Michael's record. And thanks again for listening, everybody. Really appreciate it. Not sure what we're going to do next week, but hopefully keep it interesting for you. And thanks again for listening. See y'all very soon. I hope you guys enjoyed that talk with my friend Michael J Weiss. It was fun for me to go back and listen to that and pull it out of the archives, so I hope it was entertaining for you as well. Michael has 5 releases available on iTunes and on other digital music retailers, so look those up. Do a search for Michael J Weiss, Weiss, and you should find Michael there. I also need to mention once again that we here at Turn It On are always looking for sponsors, so if you or anyone you know is interested in advertising on the program, have them get in touch with us at tiopod@fastmail.com, or you can just go to the contact area in our website, tiopod.com, and drop us a line there and let us know, and we'll find something that is mutually agreeable to both of us. We also have a PayPal donation button set up on tiopod.com. You don't have to donate, but we are trying to get some better equipment together, and I'll keep mentioning this until we get enough to do it. We just need to get ourselves a better computer and some better microphones and that kind of thing, just to keep the show moving forward and to make it easier to do this on a week-to-week basis and to get some things together and out to you quicker. Huge thanks to all of you who've been listening so far and for taking the time to send us messages and letting us know what you think. We always like that, so keep it coming and keep sharing with your friends. We want to spread the word about this show so that we can get it out there. There is much, much more to come. We have a brand new episode going up hopefully at the beginning of October sometime. I'll keep you posted on that. And having said all that, I'm going to leave you with something off of one of my friend Michael J Weiss's most recent releases, his record called Grounded. This is a song called A Little Bit of You. Thanks again, y'all. Catch you next time.
Known each other for a long, long time. That doesn't make us old. Not sure we'd make it, though God knows we tried. That's how the story goes. Somehow I knew it would be. Little bit of you, little bit of me. We'd go our ways and then see we're finally right where we should be. We take the long road. Some moments high, some moments low. If it's the route that brought us home, we take the long road home. You've had a life before and so have I, in our own separate ways. And who'd have thought those things we learned back then treat us so well today? Somehow I knew it would be. Little bit of you, little bit of me. We'd go our way and then see we're finally right where we should be. We take the long road. Some moments high, some moments low. It's the route that brought us home. Take the long road, the long road take the long road. Some moments high, some moments low. If it's the route that brought us home, we take the long road. Some moments high, some moments low. If it's the route that brought us home, take the long road. Some moments high, some moments low. Little bit of you, little bit of